So, Foster set about buying some small amounts of supplies from the small town, finding that they had some preserved meats ready, and purchasing them along with a few other minor supplies, including some fresh fruit that Foster hadn't seen in a while, so was very happy to indulge in buying some. It was hard to acquire fruit from demons. For whatever reason, most demons didn't tend to like fruit, preferring to be primarily carnivorous, meat only. However, Foster and her family, she was unsure about all Oni, but at least her and her own, always liked fruit, and her family actually grew some small trees with plums on them. She was, of course, nervous when dealing with the vendors, but was often saved by Hamilton's expert lying capabilities. She was actually very put off by how good he was at it. He lied as if it was as easy as breathing, and acted just as convincingly. So, in no time at all, they had gathered the amount of supplies that Foster could reasonably carry, and continued on their journey. Foster slowly chewing away on an apple that she had purchased from the villagers. And as the village finally faded into the distance behind them, Foster breathed a heavy sigh of relief. I am so glad that's over. I don't know how you keep smiling like that when you're surrounded by humans. It's all part of acting, playing the part that ensures that you get what you want. We wanted to avoid trouble and pass through town without any issues, and so we did. Quite frankly, I wasted more time than I would have preferred dealing with the vendors. But it's more effective if we don't have to stop to keep hunting for food for you. Restocking on supplies is a benefit to time saving in the end. And with what you have now, you should be able to last for quite a while. So there'll be no more need to stop for it. Yeah, I get it. My need to eat and sleep is an inconvenience to you. Stop rubbing it in, and let's just get to the hag already. I find that the more that I get to know you, the more I dislike you. Oh, that does hurt my feelings, Hamilton replied, very unsincerely, as he continued to walk, making a direct path towards the direction that Foster had indicated would lead them to the hag. They spent some time traveling after that, taking nearly 2 days to make their way towards their destination. And surprisingly, or perhaps fortuitously, though they passed through several territories of demons, they encountered no trouble, passing through without being noticed at all. It was on the eve of the 3rd day, when the sun had finally set and night was beginning to set in, that Foster and Hamilton were continuing their journey. They still had several hours of travel before Foster would need to sleep again, and were making their way through a large forested section of this part of the countryside, as suddenly Hamilton came to a stop, standing where he was, and simply looking down, as if there were something on the ground in front of him that he were peering at, with a level of intensity. Is something wrong? Foster asked, turning around to look at him, wondering why the sudden stop. You said this was a clear territory, did you not? Yeah, Foster replied. There aren't any demons who claim territory here, at least none that I know of. We should be clear. Why do you ask? Well, it's simply because we're not alone. What? Foster replied, as she began to look about. checking for anyone in the distance, perhaps someone hiding, becoming very alert suddenly, widening her stance as her eyes darted from place to place, searching for danger. I don't see anyone. Are you sure? Yes, I'm quite sure about it. I'd say there are at least a dozen of them. And they've surrounded us. They're quite quiet, but I don't think they're demons. I don't sense any demonic energy. No matter how good they were at hiding it, if they were demons, I would have sensed it by now. They've been closing in over the last half hour, slowly creeping closer as we travel. I've been trying to get a good read on them, but they are quite stealthy. And no sooner did Hamilton say the words than individuals began to emerge from out of the tree line, walking off from behind trees and some jumping down from them. And just as Hamilton said, there was at least a dozen of them, all seeming to be dressed fairly shabbily, makeshift leather clothing, made from animal hides and stitched together in poor fashion. And, just as Hamilton said, they had them completely surrounded, as a single individual began to step forward farther than the others, who seemed to hang back just a bit. Well, what do we have here? I've never seen anything like you in these parts before, he said, looking towards Fosta, her red skin and horns a dead giveaway that she wasn't human. However, all of the individuals in the trees appeared to be just that. How did they manage to sneak up on me? Fosta thought to herself. No human is that quiet. But as strange as your appearance is, I dare say you look delicious in more ways than one. The type of woman that'd be perfect in a bed. That is, if that body of yours isn't lying to me. And you're traveling with very strange company. You, he said, looking to Hamilton, you look human. By all appearances, I'd say you were one. However, you smell different. Way different. You're definitely not a human being. There's something off about your scent. Something foul in it. In fact, it almost smells dead. And trust me, I've smelt a lot of death, so I know it when I smell it. Are you dead? Just some walking corpse? What's the deal? The man said, smiling in Hamilton's direction. I'm under no obligation to give answers to the likes of you, Hamilton replied, maintaining a serious expression, adjusting his glasses on his face slightly, and pushing them up with a single finger, not even bothering to take his other hand out of his pocket. Well, that's pretty rude of you, don't you think? I mean, here you are, walking through my territory. The least you could do is be hospitable. After all, you're supposed to be a guest here. You might try acting nice, the man replied, gaining a serious expression of his own and exchanging glares with Hamilton. I'm under no obligation to be nice or polite to the likes of you. So, I'll give you this warning. This one and only warning. You and all of your companions are to step aside. You will allow me and my companion to pass safely, and no harm will come to you. We can part ways and just assume this, random encounter that means nothing to either of us. But of course, you can always play the options of trying to fight me. And I'm going to be honest with you. That would be a very poor choice. Even with as many werewolves as you have with you, it won't go in your favor." "Werewolves?" Foster shouted, looking over to Hamilton before her eyes began darting back to all of the people circulating them. "Wow, how did you know I was a wolf?" the man asked, looking at Hamilton. "What, do I have a stamp on my head? Am I packing around a 'I'm a werewolf' sign?" "No, it's your soul," Hamilton replied. "I began to suspect something was amiss when I realized how close you were before I was able to detect you. No human would have been able to close that amount of distance before I noticed them. So I surmised you must be something else. I don't sense any demonic energy from you, thus you're not a demon. So when you finally revealed yourselves, I used a little ability I have to take a nice look at your soul. The soul of a werewolf is easy enough spotted when you know the tricks. But based on the level of spiritual energy you're outputting, I'd say that there wasn't a wolf among you higher than tier 4, meaning you're not very strong. True enough, you have numbers on your side, and with the strength and ability of werewolves, you're no doubt far more deadly than the average human being. But you'll find that that level of strength will not aid you in conflict against me. In terms of power, I'm leagues above you and your men. So, last chance, step aside and allow us to pass. Or we can handle this in the method that you intended when you began encircling us. To be honest, it doesn't really matter to me. Your lives will be forgotten in the same amount of time that I spent noticing they existed at all," Hamilton said, as he finally took his other hand out of his pocket, clasping his hands together for a moment, whirling them around and cracking his knuckles as he extended his palms outward, his fingers twined and woven together. "I must say, it's been a while since I've been active, though. It might be nice to get some exercise."